Hello.
Remove this from the video.
Listen, please off your video while I try to block it from here.
Hello. Is it that there's no class today?
Hello, good evening, everyone. So I have reached out to the prof earlier today. He assured me he will be coming. So let's give him some time. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Are we good to go? We're waiting for this.
Good
Welcome,
evening,
Prof.
Prof. Welcome, Prof.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, I see
Welcome.
one now. Class rep is class rep here?
Yes,
Yes,
class
sir.
rep is
I'm
here.
here, sir.
Okay, can we start? Or
So I think we can start because we have a lot to cover. So they will join us, sir.
all right, thank you. So starting, do we have any question from previous discourse? That's right. Did you share the notes and the hands-on I gave earlier?
Yes, I did. Immediately I got it, sir.
And did we find time to look at it, those that got it?
Yes.
Yes, Charlie was actually going through it, although the area of emotional intelligence, then the survey in terms of the items and the reflection, I think it's not clear.
Something's changed. Sorry, are you seeing my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, Prof.
Yeah, I'm struggling to do what's the usual. I'm not sure what's going on. Well, I'll stop sharing it in minutes. Jeez. I made a mistake. All right, good evening once more. Welcome to this section. I'll be talking based on the application of leadership. In this context, we'll be looking at leadership competence, and we'll see where there are gaps, and we will have some robust discussion on how we can improve those gaps. So it's more of an application section. I expect that at the end of it, you understand why it's important, as for you as a leader, to develop, your skills of leadership effectiveness, emotional intelligence. And if you lead an organization, how to invest in building culture within the organization. I want to ask again, are you hearing me clearly?
Yes, Prof.
Yes, Prof.
Yes, Prof.
So we've got a lot of challenges in our world, and so also we have in our organization. And it's important we solve these problems together. We cannot have a silo mentality and think things will go well. You know, we all have to work collaboratively, you know, to solve our problem. Having a challenge in life is inevitable. Being defeated in life is optional. Everybody have challenge. Sometimes you go to places where the pastor will tell you this is the last challenge you ever have in your life. Probably shout the biggest amen. But the reality in life is that you are either coming out from a problem or entering into a new problem. So for us as humans, problems are constant. Problems are constant. And so we must develop the thick skin to see that we are not only survivors, but we are more than conquerors, as we say it in the scripture. You know, so being defeated in your program is optional. So leadership, your leadership strength will, to a large extent, predict how you are able to overcome, you know, many of the problems you had. We talked about the wicked problems, but generally, we all see things from different perspectives. And so if you look at the story of the 6 blind men of Hoodestan, it will paint that picture very, very, very clear. Now, these are 6 blind men checking a structure they saw, and the reality was an elephant. But each person was touching an aspect of the elephant and giving his experience. The one that touched the side of the elephant says that it's like he's touching a wall, because the skin of an elephant looks like a wall. The one that touched the tucks said it's like he's touching a spear. The one that touched the leg says it's like he's touching a tree. The one that touched the tail of the elephant says it's like he's touching a rope. Now, you understand that everyone is correct in its own right, but they are all partially correct because they are blind and they don't see the entire picture. And that is the reality of life. Sometimes we think we know it all, but our views are subject to a lot of blind areas that we are unable to see the complete picture. So we may be partially correct, but to get the total or the whole views, we need to bring everyone's view together. So we see that there's a limit in our individual perspective, and there is a lot of advantage in having a holistic understanding of a problem. And that is why team is very important. Don't think you can go it all alone. Once it becomes too difficult for you as an individual, work with a team. So no single perspective is sufficient. We need to integrate diverse viewpoints. And I want you to look into your system and within the healthcare space you're working and see to what extent does your organization integrate diverse viewpoints to make informed, balanced decisions. Most organizations in the traditional sense are top-down, meaning that decisions are made by those on top and dished out to those below, which they have to follow. But when it comes to actual work, the work process, which is the operations of the institution or organization, is bottom up. It comes from the bottom. Now, you see the lack of wisdom in taking decision at the top when the work is actually happening at the bottom without seeking the views of those at the bottom that are actually involved, you know, in the work. To me, that is tantamount to folly. So different departments may see things also from different perspectives, but when you bring all departments in your hospital together, they will possibly give you the bigger picture. So think about the bigger picture, you know, at all times. I've said this earlier on, I won't go back to all this. And I've also discussed all the leadership theories and so on. But let's take a look into the leadership context in Nigeria. And I'm sure for those of you that are from other African countries, you may connect, you know, with this. The summary of it all is that we've not got it right with leadership. I mean, there's weak leadership capacity. Among those who are in the system, there's weak autonomy for them to exercise what their capacity can do for the system. There's often poor fragmented coordination and policies consistency. So in the Nigerian context, and maybe in many organizations, which you may attest to, we have a lot of deficits when it comes to leadership. And that is why some of the multinationals or some of the big companies, indigenous companies, seek support from overseas trained, managers or leaders. Yeah, because they see that there is a lot of deficiency in the local space. And I believe that with trainings like this, we will all go out there to fill these deficiencies in leadership. And apart from the fact that it's a core leadership issue, there are a lot of influence from the external environment, which we discussed earlier, especially from the political environment. There's a lot of political interference, with what goes on, in various institutions. Even in private institutions, we see that play out as well. And many a times, institutions, organizations do not engage, with the community. And even when they have challenges brought about by poor engagement, including hostility, they still want to reinforce their security at the detriment of that, instead of negotiating and ensuring that they feel safe within the neighborhood, because people that are in those neighborhoods are happy with their operation. So this has to be taken into context within our environment. So if we want to strengthen the health system, for example, there's a strong need for leadership. Leadership is seen to be one of 6 pillars or building blocks of the health system. And essentially, leadership is at the center of everything we do at the health center. Today we had an engagement somewhere looking at the leadership challenge within the primary healthcare space. And it became so evident that for any aspect or any building block of the health system to succeed, it must have strong leadership. I guess when we did a course on health system, I put forward a thesis topic, which looks into the impact of leadership and other health system building blocks on health outcomes. And in that discourse, I remember vividly, we saw that leadership as well as other health system building blocks has significant positive or negative, depending on the index you are looking at, effect on health outcome. For example, strong leadership is linked to a reduction in maternal mortality. The same way strong leadership is linked to an increase in longevity or life expectancy. So we see leadership as very important in health system thinking. Leadership helps to improve, when we improve team leadership, what you will see is that the ability to define clear roles and goals, the ability to ensure accountability through development and deployment of KPIs will be there, and there will be a lot of feedback. Supervision in healthcare is a bit weak in our environment. So with strong leadership, you see there will be feedback. Feedback may not only be when you visit, to inspect. Of course, that is important, but you can actually generate real-time feedback as the processes are going on using digital technology. Leadership is also associated with enhanced communication skills. For you to be a good leader, you must, like I said, give priority to listening. Listening. You are not a boss, you are a leader. And then there must be clarity and respect in messaging, in delivering or in discharging or in giving instruction. You give it clearly. Poor communication is one of the biggest challenges to patient safety in many developing countries. When instructions are given but are not clear or are not understood, by the receiver, it leads to a lot of problems in healthcare which need to be taken into consideration. And so there are a lot of training on communication skills for healthcare providers. You know, we do that in the center as well for those people doing the course on quality leadership and patient safety. So that's very important. Then we need to promote accountability and ethical leadership. We spoke earlier about authentic leadership. You know, people who are not only what they are in public, but what they are in private. There are leaders today, including politicians, that will tell you something in the in public, meaning in the broadcasting station, and then they are the direct opposite of what they say. You understand? So leaders are known to be accountable and to be ethical in their construct, in their conduct. They are transparent in their decision. They take full ownership of result, whether it's good result or bad result. They uphold professional standard, and they lead by example, you know, especially in patient care and teamwork. So having said that, moving forward, you need to have that clear sense of direction. And that can come when you have insight, foresight, and hindsight. Yesterday, I spoke about this when we were looking at leadership effectiveness, that these are things we cannot joke with. Insight is present-oriented leadership. You are a man of the hour. You don't use a strategy that was used yesterday and think it will always work. No, as a leader, you must understand the current situation deeply. You must recognize patterns, relationships, root causes that others may overlook, especially when you want to solve a problem. If you identify that there is variability or variation in the way patients are taken care of in your hospital, it's not enough. You need to investigate that variation. The first assessment you did, usually using a cross-sectional measure, only suggests to you that there are variations. What is causing those variations and how can they be dealt with? These are clear research questions, you know, that can answer that. So as a leader, you have that insight to look at the root causes of every problem so that by the time you attend to that problem, you have solved them from their root causes, you know, and not just superficial. You also need foresight, which is future-oriented leadership. You know, there's no way you would draw a health plan. You come to know that next week when a laboratory takes you, that you don't have a contingency plan. A contingency plan is frequently and promptly operationalized when a strategy planned is not working. And because you have not run a very rigid system, you fall back on your contingency plan. So in that sense, nothing takes you unaware. Nothing takes you unaware. You have a plan, you have contingencies, you know, in case anything goes wrong. You also look at the issue of hindsight, and this is past-oriented leadership. You know, you are able to learn from the past. History should not repeat itself in your organization. We see a lot of organizations, institutions in Nigeria that have poor learning ability. Now, a learning organization, by definition, is one that can be able to reinvent or improve itself based on current and past experiences. So organizations use whatever experience that they encounter as a means of reinventing, strengthening, revising, you know, or remodeling whatever they're doing. And this is very important. So having that hindsight as a leader is important. So clearly you need a foresight, the insight, and then the hindsight, you know, as a leader. Leaders also require competence, leadership competence, in terms of being distributed leaders, wherein you empower people to do what they can be able to do. You're also involved in strategic thinking and decision-making. You're involved in institutional entrepreneurship. You know, all these are very important, and as leaders, we must. Before I go further, I want to be sure everyone is on the same ship with me, in the same boat. If there's any concern so far, you may please just state it before I go into the cultural consideration in leadership. Okay, seems all is good from this response. Okay, so what happens in many organizations? People are more likely to think of what they can get from the organization and not what they can give to the organization. One of the former American presidents says, think not what America can do for you, but what you can do for America, the United States. But many times what we see is that people have it in their mind, in God we trust. No, leaders tells you, like Edward Deming is one of the fathers of the equality movement. He said leaders must produce results, followers too must produce results. While we all trust in God, depend on God, everyone must bring data. And the data is to back up the fact that you are producing results, you are useful in whatever you are doing. And this is very important, and I want you to take home. Once you are in a position to guide others and direct them, ensure that they bring data. Data means they have a metrics where they measure what they are doing, and then that is coming to you. Clearly, as an aphorism in management, you cannot manage what you cannot measure. So everything we do within the leadership space and even in management, we subject it to measurement. What people need to achieve in a day, you subject that to management and ensure that there is a feedback system that shows that people are meeting up with their responsibility. Now, on the other slide is the reality. Even if you don't say it, this is what seems to be in the conduct of many of our colleagues in our workplace. Every man for himself, God for us all. So everyone wants to protect his pecuniary interests and expect God to be the one to fight for the organization or make things work for the organization. Meanwhile, they have been positioned strategically to help the organization grow, but they believe that, well, God will take care. In fact, they will even tell you, God is in control, God will take care. And they're damaging the reputation of the organization. You understand? So we need to understand that we need strong leadership to be able to ensure that all hands are on deck, in building our system. Distributive leadership also works wonders if you are able to implement it. Now, for you to implement this real leadership, it means that, number one, you are not an incompetent leader, and then you are not a political leader. You are not the one that wants to shine every time. You can celebrate any member of your team that records a breakthrough in one form or the other. You are not threatened by it. People will not come and tell you, okay, have you done this feat before? Have you done this? You are the leader. As a leader, your investment is on your team members, making sure that everyone is in optimal state to perform optimally. So the 360-degree leader, which is the middle level leaders, is what we describe as the ability to lead upward, that's lead your superior, the ability to lead across, meaning your peers, and the ability to lead downward, your subordinates. Did you wonder that you're in an organization where you have your clear tasks, but the management or the top leaders keep sending very critical tasks to you? They do so not because they like you, but because they feel you will give them the right results. And so in that sense, you are even leading upwards because you are consulted, whenever there is a challenge, within the organization, and your utility is shown at every such time. And so distributed leadership, or what we call the middle level leadership, is very important, and I really wish to emphasize that. However, looking through the styles we said earlier on, we've mentioned the Lewis style, the Blake Moulton, the Wikipedia, and all that. Now, these are all styles. It's not as sometimes we ask people question, are you a transformational leader or a transactional leader? but we don't ask that anymore because we expect leaders to be adaptive. So we ask, to what extent are you able to deploy adaptive leadership skill? At some point, the focus may be transformational leadership, which your focus is just to see how you inspire your teammates, motivate them to be able to do what they need to do, build them up, tool them properly. Or transactional, where you have to focus on the task. So at one point, you may find yourself being transactional because you feel that the task must be accomplished. We also have issues around leadership, servant leadership. So all this you can put under, especially if you're studying the leadership wheel. You understand the leadership wheel. See all this play out as major recurring features in leadership. So clearly, looking at leadership factor we're going to deal with today, we're going to look at the level of charisma. When we talk about charisma, it's a touch, a personal touch with your team members. A leader must be approachable. A leader must ensure that people feel at home when they are around him. You are not a leader, a good leader, if you come into the office and people are scampering for safety. They are running because they don't want you to deal with them ruthlessly. Leaders are charismatic. Charismatic leaders end up achieving more with their team than those who are not charismatic. Now, the social skills, we talked about the social intelligence yesterday. As leaders, we must build strong interpersonal relationships and foster trust within team and stakeholders. Ensure that there is, I used the word bonding yesterday, and somebody felt that it may connote something pretty negative. But there is need for bond. And one of the things about leaders, yes, especially those who are exceptional, is that they have a very strong network. Network. Yeah, network. When I say network, means that you are connected. You understand? And that actually determines their net worth. When you are connected, you know how to call the shot when there's a problem. I had an institution, for example, and if there's a problem, I know how to dial numbers, that are there, to get solutions out, and that's why we must not trade relationship as leaders. No matter whether you're on your trajectory up, and of course, some people are on the trajectory down, relationship is very, very important. And that's the social side of the social consideration in leadership. Vision is also a very clear one. You're going to be assessing yourself in all this. And vision is not about being a prophet, as many people believe, or go around looking for soothsayers. No. Vision is your ability to forecast. It's your ability to see into the future in terms of using the current experiences or the current data available to predict what will happen in the future. And when we talk about vision, especially when I've explained to you issues around hindsight, insight, foresight, vision helps you to be future focused, and to be honest, you cannot say because you understand, oh, well, the economy is looking somehow, and you are discouraged, thinking you need to pull out. No, vision is what helps you to define a strategy that will help you weather whatever storm you have. If your organization does not have a corporate strategy, by corporate strategy, I mean having a mission, vision, values, strategic objective, I believe after your training in management, you will be able to help that organization establish one, because that is a strong melting point for every staff of the organization. If the organization has, a corporate strategy that defines all that they do, you can do that for your organization. Now, transactional features is when we tend to focus on tasks. We want to focus on results. We want to focus on, we are go-getters. We can drive people to make sure that they get the work done. So your focus in a transactional system is the task, getting the task done, and every other thing appears secondary. Delegation is when we assign tasks effectively so that people can also have opportunity of doing things, and by doing things, they are also learning, and then you are also supporting them in that learning process. Then execution is when we are able to implement what has been planned. Someone said it earlier in one forum that the problem of Nigeria is not planning, but implementing our plan. Leaders must have that strong sense of ensuring that what is planned gets done. So you're going to assess yourself on these 6 criteria, and we'll have discussion. On the emotional intelligence aspects, you're looking at self-awareness. To what extent do you know yourself? Yesterday, we talked about a lot of things, about jewelry, window, and all that. These are just to expose you to certain tools that you can use to understand yourself better. It's easy for anybody to say, I know myself, but you don't know yourself to the extent that you know where your gaps are or your deficiencies are to improve it, just to improve your overall effectiveness. Emotional intelligence also look at self-management. How do you control your emotion? How do you adapt to frustrating situations or situations that are not so pleasant? Well, I will tell you from the outset that there's nothing wrong in getting angry. But if anger leads you to giving up the shout, and also creating a scene that is quite disruptive, then that's poor emotional intelligence. It's poor emotional intelligence. I witnessed a situation where someone hired a domestic help, and then the domestic help, at a point, the boss of the domestic help was not happy with an activity the domestic help had done and started shouting at the domestic help. Now, the domestic help had to sue that boss, to court for demeaning her, because by the time he was shouting at her, it was demeaning her, because in a workplace situation, you respect one another. Now, the good thing about some of this in developed client is that when you are a domestic son, you're already there in the home, and you have your laid down responsibility.
Thank you.
Hello? Hello? Are we still together?
Yes, sir.
Okay, your domestic help at the home, and you all go out, and you go to an eatery, and you expect the domestic help to go and bring your food. Tells you no. And that case that went to court, the domestic help won that case. So what it teaches us is that we must control emotion in the workplace. Because you are the superior, you can't shout on at your subordinate. No, you are demeaning them, and that is a civil offense. Some people even go as much as even beyond shouting, throw things at people, you understand, and so on. There was a case of a country's first lady that went to another country with a retinue of staff, including cooks and so on. And the course of staying in that other country, the cook prepared something that was not pleasant to her. And she threw the cutlery, the knife at the cutlery, which is the knife aspect of it, at the cook, and injured the cook. And so at the country she was in, there was no immunity. Even if in her own country there was no immunity, but it's a way you are kind of say, oh, we know her, she's a first lady, let's give her some respect. And she was imprisoned for doing that. So self-management is very important. Social awareness is also very important. And that is, by the time you understand yourself, you must also understand other people's emotion. If you read through Stephen Covey's book on the 7 habits of highly effective people, you know that one of the habits is that you must seek first to understand before being understood. So you must also seek to understand people's emotion. You understand? Especially when you are dealing with a relationship that doesn't look like they're equal. Yes, so we must sense the emotion and ensure that we put up necessary safeguard to protect people, especially at that vulnerable point. A vulnerable point for someone may be when he's gone out of his way to start shouting. Two wrongs can't make a right within the workplace. And then there's relationship management, which you are going to assess as well. And that is how you build and maintain healthy relationship through communication, empathy, mutual performance monitoring, and where there's conflict, learn to resolve those conflicts. Now, having said that, these are things you see on the assessment sheet you have. Let me take a few into cultural imperative, for leadership excellence in organization. Now, someone said this some time ago, and I believe him so much. In many organizations in Nigeria, their biggest problem is not a lack of infrastructure, but a lack of infraculture. Many organizations does not keep or have the right culture. And this applies mostly to public organizations. It applies mostly to public organizations. People do things with a high sense of impunity. They don't care what the consequence may be. I was coming a few days ago from the university end, and then there is a bypass you can take and turn over and start coming to the highway. And then the policeman goes to close that place so that people can go much further. And then they close most part of the road because they want to see each person passing, not because they're looking for a stolen car or stolen items. They're looking for how to extort money, from people. That's the highest level of insensitivity. And so the queue went as far as possible, until someone who was coming with a security vehicle met that queue, and then the military guys in that vehicle ran up to where these police people are that block part of the road and moved away all the barricade. And they moved that not because of us, they moved that because their principals should not be stranded, in a traffic joint or a security checkpoint. And so that's how we're able to, move. So what Peter Drucker said is that once you have strategy, if you don't have culture, that strategy will not work. It will not work. In many organizations, they've got strong strategy, but the culture is wrong. And when you see that culture that is wrong, you have all the strategies, all the plans and all that, you see that they are not working, because of the wrong culture. So Peter Drucker said culture eats strategy for breakfast. In other words, by the time you have strategy and you have culture, culture is what makes that strategy to work. What are some of the cultures you may want to imbibe or build up in your organization? They're stated on the slide. The culture of excellence. Do your organization promote mediocrity? What is the choice of selecting leaders to head departments or units within the organization? So there must be a culture of excellence. Is it people that are distinguished or people that are chosen by other parochial interests? This is very important. We also have the culture of collaboration. We stated it so much yesterday, collaboration, where we have a high level of assertiveness and a high level of cooperation. So there's a strong internal teamwork and external partnership. So that level of collaboration is very high and it's a good culture. People learn helping hands to others in the workplace. You see them cooperating, you see them watching each other's back, doing things to support the other. And I did say, and I'm bringing it up again at this point, in your idea of teamwork in the healthcare sector, do you envisage that such teams should be like a football team where everyone wants to score the goal because they have the highest goal scorer, they have the most distinguished player of the tournament and so on, and everyone wants to win, or score that goal or get those prizes. Or should it be a relay team where you run your race, you hand over to the next person, he runs, he hands over to the next person. So if you make a mistake not to perform well, the entire team will fail because no one can redeem that mistake. In a football game, if you make a mistake, somebody can come in and correct that mistake immediately. But in a relay, no one can. We're going to discuss what kind of teamwork do you think exists in the health sector or should exist in the health sector. Another culture is the culture of innovation. Now, a lot of times, people are engaged in an organization. Sometimes you just know them by their names. Sometimes you even know them by what you know as their qualification, that is academic qualification. But you don't know what is in their brain. In each of us is this what we call implicit knowledge, which organization ought to exploit to be able to build the organization. That is the real deal. The reason why you employ that person is not just for his physical presence. You want to tap into his brain. You want to make sure that he uses his brain to solve your problem. So organizations should have a culture of innovation. People should not keep complaining. People should do something, meet the situation and solve the situation. Most times you hear the word is see something, say something, do something. Sometimes people should not pass through. At some point, we developed a routine, for our house officer. And one of the things I included in that routine is innovation. For any posting you are involved with, before you leave, you must do something that changes the way things are done in that organization. Now, imagine that you are changing a process, another person is improving another person, how that we all fuse together to see that our organization is at the top, at its peak. Yes, so a culture of innovation is very important. A culture of ownership. A culture of ownership. I tell people in my organization that what are you doing today to sustain the organization? And everyone must ask himself that question. What am I doing to sustain my organization? Are you thinking that everyone should be for himself and God for us all? Or you're sleeping, you're waking up, will be, how can I be of greater advantage to my organization or institution? So there must be that culture of ownership. With that culture of ownership, people will go out of their way to see that, they do what is right or what will promote their organization. There's also need to be a culture of service and visibility. Service in the sense that you deal with, as a worker within an industry or an organization, you are also relating with others. Either you're a marketer or you are into what we call public relations, or you are just a company staff. Someone will ask question. Today I was there when somebody was asking a question about something in an organization I belong to. And I took the number, and sent it to people who should know. You understand? So the question is, as a leader, if you are sent an email and in 24 hours, you are unable to respond to that email, something is wrong. Something is wrong. I'm not talking about WhatsApp. WhatsApp, you should do that within 1 hour or a text message. But an email, within 24 hours. So if people send you email in 24 hours, you've not responded, they'll say, oh no, this guy's leadership is queried. Responsiveness should be a grand norm. You understand? And then we must show that we are responsive by replying to people that need responses from us. How do we ensure that we promote excellence? I use my example of my center. You understand? We must look at excellence from the cultural element as well as the impact it has on excellence. Well, if you have a shared value, meaning that all members of your organization understand where the organization is going to, and they share in that assignment, you see that everybody's behavior will align with the goal. We align with the goal. If they know that the organization needs to achieve this level of performance, you understand, and everybody is in sync with it, behavior will just change automatically. The same way, if an organization provides accountability, you show that every member of the organization becomes transparent in what they do, and they also strive to ensure that there's reliability in the system. And this is how it goes with innovative mindset, with collaboration, with professionalism and recognition and award. Now, let me talk about the issue of recognition and award. Not many people will want to do something heroic where there are no incentives. There are people that could do it, but when they think about what's the incentive, how does it pay me? They just shy away from it and say, no, I'm not going to do this time around. But as an organization, how do we take care of recognition and reward? How do we motivate people? And if you're a health organization where clients come in, patients come in, and so on, do you practice a 360-degree feedback system where it's not only your superior that gives a judgment about you, your peers will give a judgment, your client will give a judgment about you, and by the time all stakeholders give a judgment about you, the system will analyze those judgments and then be able to know whether you can go on a promotion or not. This is very important, and so on. And as leaders, we must also have zero tolerance for excuses. There are staff in your team or team members that you give them an assignment today, they say, yes, sir. And the very next moment, they are thinking of the excuses to present. They're thinking of the excuses. And once you come at the set time and say, how far have you got to that assignment? Actually, I have not done anything. If I were you, I would exclude those kind of people from my team because they offer nothing. They rather will demotivate people. Because if what they were to do is such that when others come at the set time, they will take it off from there, or they'll take off the assignment from there, and the person has not done it. You've messed up everyone. And that is why I feel that the more I did teamwork, it's like the relay, where you know that your action has the capacity, to ensure that your team win or they fail. Or they fail. So excuses are what we need to try to get as far as possible from us. In fact, if you have a staff that is filled with excuses or procrastination, you need to determine the job of that staff. How do this impact organization? Somebody say it's not my responsibility because he has got a job description and he has seen something that should be of benefit to the organization. I say, no, that's not my work. You understand? So in that way, there is erosion of accountability and ownership. Someone may not say we have no funding. It's a common saying. It's a common saying. When you say, what are your problems? We don't have money. But I can tell you for free that in many organizations, according to, as somebody said, it is not the lack of resources that is the major problem, but the lack of resourcefulness. The lack of resourcefulness. If people are resourceful, they'll be able to think out of the box and be able to solve their problem because they are resourceful. But many times people sit down and say they are waiting for resources to meet them where they are, So that kind of block innovation, block the innovative mindset, and block resourcefulness. Another form of excuse is that's how it's always been. You might have gone to an organization, you tell people, why are you doing that? That is how we normally do it here. Leave us the way we are. You see that strong resentment or resistance, to change. So with that kind of situation, it prevents reform. If you are the leader, people who behave that way, put them far from you. Because rather than energizing you, they will innovate you. They will make sure that you are you lose your confidence. That is how it is, as carelessly as that. So let's assume you are now the CEO as a leader. You now put that kind of person as your personal assistant or as your secretary or as something. Push that people far away so that you can have these positive vibes that you need to succeed. in your leadership assignment, And then we see all that things. Leadership should fix it. Sometimes people just not only excuse themselves, they accuse others. They pass the ball. They pass the buck to others. Sometimes it's to external factors. Oh, the problem with this company is because of the economic reform of the government. That's just passing the buck. There's always a way to, navigate no matter what. So we see that excuses really create a lot of problem. I once told one of my students, she asked for a joint meeting of supervisor, a PhD student. And so we scheduled a time in my office to come in. And the other supervisors came at the right time, and we're waiting. And then this student came about 25 minutes late, and so was trying to give some excuses why she felt late and said she went to pick her daughter. Honestly speaking, you don't need to say all that. You agree to meet a certain time. If you don't meet a certain, because the joint supervision period was 1 hour. Well, we told her everything is fine, but we have 35 minutes more. So tell us the most important thing you want to achieve within these 35 minutes so that we can all go, And this is important. As a team leader, you called for a meeting by 12. And then you said your constitution or your modus operandi is that you must form a quorum. Who tells you must form a quorum? If the meeting is for 12, and then 3 people come by 12, and you wait and wait and wait, and then another 5 people come and say, yes, we now have a quorum, and you begin your deliberation. And towards the end, more people come. And those people that come towards the end, they have just come, so they have enough time, and they begin to ask all kinds of questions. How is this done? Oh, what did you discuss about it? What did you discuss about it? At the end of the day, people who have come early, you have made them extend their time, and that will not be profitable to them. So if you understand culture properly, punctuality is a culture. If your program is to start by 6:30, start by 6:30. No excuse. No excuse. You understand? And this is a very common thing we see, especially if you work outside this environment. In the British lifestyle, if you call for a meeting by 6 o'clock, or let's take it, if you call for church service, by 6 o'clock, you may come there by 5, you won't see anybody. 5:30, you won't see anybody. Sometimes even 5:45, people start coming. But by the time it is 5 minutes to 6, you see almost everybody that is meant for that meeting already seated, waiting. And if it is that the meeting is to last for 1 hour, and you are the moderator, and you keep the meeting beyond 1 hour, people pick up their belongings and leave. You understand? And leave you to continue as long as you want to continue, because they are already booked for other assignments. And these are civilized and organized systems. And we must have those kind of positive culture in our organization. And so we must have zero tolerance for excuses, and so on. So in summary, what I've said so far on the cultural imperative and looking at how we are set, because we'll go into the practical session immediately after now, is that we need to have distributed leadership, 360-degree leadership, middle-level leadership, where leadership is seen at all levels. In fact, everyone should be a leader. People must learn to lead. If it's to lead themselves properly, that's an advantage to the organization. If it's to lead the tasks that have been given to them, it's also very good. So leaders must inspire, communicate, and drive change. And if we do this change small and consistently, it will build us a competent, a strong team, and also better outcome. You don't need a title to lead. If you are waiting for a time, you'll be called a pastor to now say you want to lead, you're wasting your time. You can lead from wherever you are. And that's the 360-degree leader we're talking about, So we see that organization is not just laboratory or infrastructure. It is a living system of people, values, and daily action. So for your organization to move forward, it is what these people are doing daily in the organization. If an organization goes down today, it had all the attributes of going down yesterday. It only manifested today because it has reached a critical point. You understand? So we must say organization not just infrastructure and all the things we have with it, but the people, the culture, and what we are able to ensure they do every day for the organization. Okay, at this point, you will take on, for those of you who have the worksheet, take on the worksheet. I've explained it fully. And then you have to fill that worksheet. There are two aspects to it. One is your leadership, the leadership aspect, and the other is the emotional intelligence aspect. I'm giving you for each 5 minutes, meaning that for all 10 minutes. And then, but before we do that, I want to know if there are some questions on what I have shared, or maybe one or two comments from participants in this lecture before you go into the hands-on. Any question or comments? I want you to share experience. I know some of you have great experiences you can share in this regard. Yes, we're doing that. I don't see a hand up. Yes, I've seen one hand. Yes. Chinedu, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir, for the nice lecture. Is that I want you to throw maybe a little light on the aspect of excuses.
Oh, what?
On the aspect of giving excuses. And the impact. Yes, excuses and the impact it has on organizational performance. Now, there are some aspects of the job that comes with challenges. I work in a sector whereby, as part of the daily progress reports, you also highlight some of the challenges you might have faced during the course of your work. And looking at those challenges is where, people can come in to say, okay, how do we help this individual to achieve more? Now, the organization expects you to share your success stories and also highlight some of your challenges. Now, looking at the excuses section of the lecture, I saw myself reflecting on this, and I kept looking at it as like, am I not meant to talk about some of these challenges? And to me, it's appearing like I was just giving excuses. So I wanted to throw a light, see how we can, strike a balance where we need to say, why didn't we achieve what we set out to achieve? Because of, say, insecurity or something like that. And how does it not appear as giving excuses? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that's very important. Now, earlier on, I spoke about the issue of planning, which Alabere will talk more about. Now, once you be given a responsibility, my understanding is that responsibility is negotiated, meaning that you sat down with your superiors and then they looked into all that. Now, as an executor of that assignment for the entire team organization, you must be seen doing your best to see that you deliver result because you are not a leader. Now, if there are challenges, which of course there are, a constant touch with those who need to know and support the system is very critical. Let's say, for example, you say, go ensure that the flyer for this company goes to this area within 7 days. You say, yes, sir. And then we all go away, no story heard, nothing heard, and in 7 days we reconvene. And we say, how far? He said, no, I didn't do it because my parents were sick. Oh, because there was no means of mobility. What are you talking about? You understand? So there are people like that that just build up excuses. You know, they are non-performers. So in that team exercise, like I call it the relay, they've already delisted or they've already made the organization to fail, the team to fail. Everybody is doing his own interdependently, and that comes together cumulatively to say this is what the team has achieved. And they do nothing about it. You know, let's say you have this coursework now, and in the coursework, you expect that if you are 10, you assign responsibility. And when people finish their responsibility with a set timeline, you bring all together, and then you are now beginning to review. Let's assume 1, 2, 3 persons didn't do anything, didn't communicate any extraneous situation around them to see if others will come in quickly, you know, to help out in the matter because it's permissible in that order. You know, they just let it be. And when it is time for the next meeting, that is the point they start telling you all the challenges, the setback, you know, and so on and so forth. That is the basis of excuses you cannot tolerate in your organization. If you do tolerate it, it will undermine the entire system. And to be honest with you, it's a big problem in Nigeria. I don't know of other African countries. It's a very big problem, you know. In other places, people can tell, oh, well, I'm a bit sick, and the system has, because systems are built to be resilient, they have already an arrangement that once somebody is not well, local can just be called in immediately, you know. But not when you know you're not going to do it and you do it regularly, just giving an excuse because you want to do some other thing, you want to sleep more or do one thing and the other. It doesn't help any organization. It doesn't. So what we are driving at is that excuses should not be embedded into institutional behavior. It should not be. You know, I see this happen also, you know, especially with top level people like governors. A governor walks himself to 2 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning, and the same governor has set up a meeting for 8 o'clock. And then everybody comes sitting down in the governor's house waiting. You understand? Some people even sleeping while they are waiting. And then the excellency governor comes up by 12 noon and people stand up. You understand? You know, we should understand very clearly that as leaders, we are an epitome of the culture of our organization. You understand? So if you know you want to stay up till 4 o'clock, then you must also meet up your activities or take a short break, cancel the activities ahead of time, you know, or reschedule it as it pleases you so that you don't send a negative vibes or notes, you know, which is called culture, you know, to the people you are leading. You understand? So this is very important. Issues of time, promptness, punctuality, you understand? And then achieving results are very critical issues in teamwork. And you must ensure that members of your team understand this, and so nobody comes with an excuse when it is time to show results. So while we trust God, every member of the team must give us results for the team to succeed. And it takes leadership to ensure that happens. Yes, Baseman.
Yeah. Good evening, Prof.
Good evening.
Thank you for the lectures. I had a scenario where an organization awarded a contract to me, and I was like telling them what is stipulated in the terms, like in the contract, it's not okay, because looking at the quality of work that is meant to be done, and they are like, this is what they want to do. I was like, what people are intend doing is not good for the people of the area. And they are insisting that is either I accept the job or I let go, that another person will take it. I was not like, okay, fine. I have to consult my engineer. I was like, okay, what do people expect now that I should go ahead and do what you ask me to do? What if the feedback is now coming back to my company? Who bear the cost? They said, okay, if I'm not ready, I should just let go. So now I go ahead to meet with their board of directors. We discussed. They are like, okay, the engineers have said this, so it can go. I accept the job. At some point, I have to call their overall head was like, this is my suggestion. What your so-called consultant presented is not okay. And if we do it, these are the consequences. He said, okay, I should go ahead and do what I know that is right. And Prof, I will tell you that I went ahead to do what I think is okay. And they come and they were like applauding. But at some point, they came back and were like, this is not what they asked me to do. I know the implication of what they asked me to do, that if I do it, it's going to tarnish my own image as if I don't know what I'm to do. So in this case now, what will you suggest? Because they were pressure to a point. They asked me if I'm the one I want to do this project from my own pocket. Do I think I can spend such an amount of money? And I told them yes, because based on the quality of service I want to render to my people, that if I have the fund, yes, I'm going to do it. So I want to ask, in this situation now, what will you advise me as a person? Thank you, Prof.
Well, I do understand contracts. You understand, and contract goes with what we call terms, which are all in the contract agreement. If a contract is not favorable to you, you don't sign it. You know, because when you sign it, the terms of the contract will be binding on you. Now, for an organization that says this is what we want to do and are not ready to meet up with what it is, it means there shouldn't be a contract in the first place. If you agree to a contract, you have to do what is in the terms of the contract. So assuming, but not conceding, that they want a poor quality work, they have to put it in the agreement. Agreement should not be drawn only by one party. It's both parties that are involved in the contract. You should draw. So when they write an agreement, you revise it. You know, if the specifications say this is the mixture, let's say it's a construction work, and you say, no, but the money you are putting shows that this is the mixture, because once you get the specification right, the next thing is quantity. And quantity is obvious to anybody. You go to the market, you know the quantity, and it will also be obvious. So there is contract negotiation, you know, but merely accepting and then doing what may not be to their satisfaction. It's a problem, you know, for you. It is better you back off, you know, or you negotiate from your position of strength, you know, than to accept a contract when you know the terms cannot be implemented.
Okay, Prof. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so yeah, those reasonable points, I want to hear you speak in no particular order. I see Samson and Linda.
Hello, Prof. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening, Linda.
Okay, thank you for the lecture so far. I want to really appreciate the difference between jealousy and seeing things from a different perspective. Because when you mentioned we see things from different perspectives, so I was trying to understand something because I had encountered different recently. And not like it's only me. Many of us in a particular institution, in a particular unit, you know, we had this narrow that when you have anything that is like a success, you have to hide it from your leader. You have to hide it from the head. Yes.
Why?
You have to actually hide it because when she hears congratulations from another person's it becomes a problem. But if it's from her own side, everybody will be so excited about it. So I was trying to understand when you were going through this lecture, could it be that she has a way of seeing her own things, or could it be that she's being threatened? I just wanted to know, is there something I can use to say this is jealousy or this is seeing things from different perspectives?
No, you know, yesterday we talked about the features of ineffective leaders, and one of it was the insecure leader. And so these are people that feel threatened by the achievement of their subordinates or their team members. You know, so you might be dealing with an insecure leader. You know, to be honest with you, I don't know how the person came in there as a leader, and I'm not sure how long the person will remain there as a leader. And this also plays out if you are looking at delegated leadership, which I've always emphasized, the shared leadership. Now, one of the things you find out is that there are leaders that do not want people to do things, even for the advantage of the organization, without authorization. They feel everything should be authorized. And then when it comes to authorization, they say, no, don't do it.
Yes, exactly.
So the fact that you are in a position or a positional leader does not mean you always mean well for the organization. And honestly speaking, in many public organizations today are dead because of the kind of people that are running it in charge. They are dead because of the kind of people running it. But there's nothing you can do except the civil service or the public service decides to reinvent itself, where people are giving clear mandates, clear performance in the indices, and if you can't get the result, you go. You understand? But you see a situation where somebody has failed woefully and is even given another term in office, you know, and people who have performed better are not given a continuity. So there becomes no incentive for excellence. You know, these are all cultural issues. And that is why in this lecture, one of the emphasis I'm trying to bring out is that leadership excellence cannot thrive in institutions that do not have strong culture. We must get our culture right. We must ensure that what is white is white and what is black is black. You understand? Everybody must see things the same way, you know? Now, if you want a culture of innovation, can I tell you one simple approach to do that? You must liberalize your entire system and allow people to, whatever you've given them, which I consider their responsibility, they must have commensurate authority to perform. And it is that authority that makes them begin to blossom. And as they are blossoming, the company is blossoming. You understand? But when you withhold the authority and give the responsibility, it won't work. In fact, you may even be tending towards people having a culture of excuses. You understand? Because they'll say, but you didn't ask me to do that. You didn't empower me to do that. You didn't make me feel so. So we must intentionally ensure that all our team members are empowered enough. In the best case scenario, the result is a shared result. Even if as a leader, you may want to identify people who have had spectacular achievement within the group. And by doing that and sharing motivating examples, you're actually using it to encourage others to do the same thing. Like this is the leadership DNA in this facility. We encourage people, we recognize people, you understand? We have a culture of recognition of whoever has done anything. We celebrate our own. And everybody will want to say, oh, well, if I do this, I'll be celebrated. You see all kinds of innovation coming in within that space. You understand? And this is what we need to engineer within our organization so that the organization can do a lot better. But I can't handle the case of an insecure leader that want to, you know, ensure that nothing works in that situation. I think that case should be handled by whoever engaged that leader, you know, for that organization. All right. I still see a couple of hands. Can they speak up? I think I heard from the member. I also see you. I also see Esther. Can we?
Okay. Good evening, Prof.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Please, my question is, I want to go back to when you were talking about zero tolerance for excuses as a leader.
Yes,
you know that, okay, if we have a situation where some people will say it is not my work, and then you as a leader, you want to take that responsibility because you want the team to shine, you want them to win. I can just imagine in football, somebody who is a defender turning to be a striker just for the team to win. But at the end, you discover that they now hand over the whole work for you because they see you doing it, not because they don't know how to do it, but they just want to stress you, and they overstress you until at some point, you know, me and you, I can agree that God forbid, on the process of this job, you die now, they will replace another person immediately. So
Absolutely.
how do you manage this kind of a thing in a group of people that you know, even no matter what you do, they won't see that you are doing the right thing? How do we manage it?
Yeah, I did explain this, I think yesterday or Monday, I can't remember again. And this is a common occurrence. People come with a heart, especially new employed or newly employed. They come with a mind to work, but the organizational culture is poor. Absenteeism, lack of punctuality, lack of accountability pervade in those scenarios. And you see people that come to work, they finally tend to go with the culture of the organization. Now, culture is powerful. It's powerful. And that is why I drove the point that we need to get the right culture to get our institutions to become great or achieving or become excellent, because if you have the right culture, which lifts every staff that is there, you see that the institution has the capacity to handle every challenge they have because they have the right culture. Like somebody says, it's not my work, but it's good for this thing. You understand? There are even times where if the right culture are there, one of the right culture is that even institutions should not be punitive in a way that someone has made a mistake. You understand? The system should look at a way of assuming that, oh, this mistake came because there were some gaps in our system that we need to. Because by the time we start chasing whoever has caused a problem, you lose sight of the lessons that the entire institution can learn, from that problem. You understand? But I am also saying that for you as a leader that needs to move with a high sense of inspiration and also encourage people, influence them and so on, and then you surround yourself by people who are giving excuses and so on, that will dampen that confidence you have, the drive you have. It will dampen it. You understand? So you have to get the right people around you, especially core drivers of your system, to be people who are achievers, people who believe in what you're doing, and are ready to do that. But in the civil service, for example, there's not much you can do because you can't fire. You don't hire, most likely, you can't even fire. You understand? But you could actually, as a leader, bring to the fore people who can drive the system. So kind of, again, we now come to the issue of human capital. Kind of, most of the capital you have on your system are not producing anything. They are redundant in that sense. How long they will be, it depends on when the civil service is ready to, reinvent itself or change the way it does its thing. Do you understand? Mm. Okay, I've seen others in address. Infrastructure is not a problem, but infraculture. Yes, infraculture. With infraculture, you get the infrastructure right. You get the infraculture right. And those of us that are even in the academics, if we talk to ourselves, we know that if we change our culture as academic staff, a lot will be attracted to the system we run. You've got an autonomy, which is the best thing you can ever have from any government. And then what are you doing with the autonomy? You still go cap and glove, every month, give us money, give us this, give us that. You understand? Come on, it doesn't work that way, in other climes. Okay, we still have a hand up, and that's Esther Abu. I think we take that hand before we consider what you have done, with the hands-on exercise. Esther, you may please speak up.
Good evening, Prof.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you very much. One of my biggest challenges, or one of the major challenges I've had to face as a leader in my organization is the issue of cultural change and change management.
Sorry,
So
Esther, can you raise
personally,
your
I've
voice a
tried
little?
to
I'm struggling to hear you.
bring in different of leadership so I can create especially when you
Are we hearing Esther? I am struggling.
No, sir, her network is
Can
very bad, sir.
you hear me, sir?
I think it's a bit better now. Yeah.
Okay, so I was saying that one of the major challenges I've had to face as a leader in the healthcare system in my organization is the issue of change, culture change. You know, I tried to bring in the whole leadership styles, different styles, just to get my desired results. But then they are bent on, like, they are not ready for that change to come in. Especially if you're in middle management and then you're in the public sector, or you're in the civil service or public service, it becomes so tiring that I remember there was a time one of my superior told me that, see, just remain within your circle of influence. And that hit me deep because as a change agent and as a leader, I was trying to bring in, I was just trying to meet my goal at that point. So at what time do you now say, let me just give up? Because it's like there's little or nothing you can do when you're in the public, maybe when you're in the public or public and civil setting. Thank you, sir.
Right. First of all, I'll tell you never give up in that instance. But again, the question will now be, are there early results coming up from what you're doing that can be enticing, that can be showcased, that can encourage others to see this is a better way to go? You understand? Because results actually can actually lead people to know that there is a better way to get things done. Now, the only challenge we have, like you mentioned, in public systems or public sector or service as the case may be, we find out that the remuneration is so skewed to the point that whether you come to work or whether you work wherever you are paid. You are paid salary. So it becomes a problem. So if you are a middle level leader and you got a team or what you consider your circle of influence, and you're able to inculcate in them the right culture. In this team, this is how we do things, this is how we do it, and it's within your influence to do that. You may end up seeing some distinction in your team than in others. And they may call you to tell you, okay, what are you doing there? Can you come and help us do it in this way? They may, I'm not saying they will. There are some systems, many systems, in fact, that are designed to fail. They are designed to fail, and they are actually failing overwhelmingly, without people even not knowing what to do. In fact, in Nigeria, one of the things that has happened over time is that when a system fails, instead of dissolving it or reinventing it, you just set up a parallel system and say, since this system cannot do this, let's set up another. And that one working the same cultural milieu will fail again. And so you see there's a lot. Now, the government in recent time have been trying to now merge all these similar bodies and so on, and become very, very difficult. Very difficult. You understand? But for us as leaders, to get it right, if we are in a position to do so, we must build the right culture. And if you build the right culture, one of our great minister of blessed memory, Dora Akiri, says, good people, great nation. Now, what that means is that get the culture right, you get the nation to become great. You understand? Culture is everything. And we need to establish that without culture, it will be difficult, for us to do anything else. So I want to thank you for this, and I will stop sharing this and project, this thing, so that we look at what we have done so far, and share experiences. Okay. It's a 2-page document. One is on transformational leadership survey. Have we completed this? So what you feel is just cycle or tick. There are 18 questions there. When you are done, we want to know the submitted score for charisma. Charisma is question 1713. Your social skills are 2814. Vision is 39. We want to know the total score. And then we want to have some reflection on those scores. Please take time out now to get this done quickly so that we can continue our discourse. So please do that.
Everybody is muted. I don't know what's going on.
No, they are actually responding to this question. We gave them 5 minutes to do so. I may think you have responded, so you can share your ideas. So who has completed the transformational leadership survey and the emotional intelligence self-assessment? All right, I think we should be done now. I want you to, is anyone having any challenge? Apart from those who have given excuses of being in transit or...
Yes, please, how to get the question?
Say that again, please. Can you say that again, please?
Sir, we're using phone. How to get the question, sir, to answer? I'm using phone.
Not sure how I can help you, but I have projected a question on my screen. You understand? So if you want to say charisma, What did you score? Number one question. Number this.
If God only give you sense, you know, do something. No.
I'm trying to circle using my phone, but it's not circling. I'm trying to mark the good.
You see what we call the excuses. Now, in all honesty, would anyone think that you can cycle with your phone on something that is not a screenshot? Does it work?
No, do editing, just edit.
So assuming your action will determine how successful a team is, what do you expect? The team has failed. Okay, so whoever has done it, let's just share experiences. Let's share experiences quickly. So you're not adding all the scores for transformation. I want to know what is called in charisma, the social case, vision, transactional, and then we do some reflection. What can be done? That's the application part of it. How can we improve? Or if we are good enough, we just say, yes, we are good enough. Elizabeth, please, go on.
Okay, so I'm done, but adding the scores, adding the scores is where I have issues. So for charisma, okay, let me read the instructions first. Your score is determined by adding the 3 items that form each of the 6 factors.
Okay.
All of these.
So for charisma, what did you score?
Okay, so
Huh?
adding the score is as it is. How do I add? Am I supposed to?
No, let's say that number one, I go out of my way to make others feel good to be around me. Let's assume you tick 2. That's your score. If in number 7, you said I have an ever-expanding network of people to trust and rely upon me, if you tick 3, that's your score. So when you want to add charisma, you add the score you have for number 1, the score for number 7, and the score for number 13. So it means that the possible is 3 marks, and then the possible maximum is marks. 12. So who has done it, please? We need to move on.
So
I intend to.
I've done it, sir. I've done it, sir.
So that's Bestman.
Yes, sir.
Bestman. Yes, can you share with us?
For my charisma, I have 12. Then for my social, I have 11. My vision is 8. Transactional is 10. Delegation is 10. Then execution is 10.
Okay, so now there's a problem with vision. What is going wrong for you, and what do you think you can do?
Okay, so I think for my vision, sorry, sir, I'm using my phone, so I'm trying to minimize. Let me explain. Okay.
Yeah, we're waiting for you.
So I don't usually share my goals to others.
No, we didn't hear you. We didn't hear you earlier, so you don't mind.
I say that option number 3, most times I don't really share my goals to others, like in the open, like that. Most times I just keep it, try to like work on it by myself and not to make it like an open thing to others.
Okay.
And the second one is, sorry, I'm using my phone, so I'm trying to minimize and go through. My laptop is down. Okay. Vision, mine. A simple, you say, images. Option 9 to the use of images. Most times I ignored it. I ignored using images and signs like to make things being achieved. Hello, Prof, are you with me?
Yes, I am. I just
So,
want you to synthesize what the problem is and also what you think you can do to improve the situation.
I think with regard to improvement, following this lecture now, I think a lot have been learned, and I think I will be working on those my lapses that I have noticed based on the lectures I have acquired so far on this leadership course. Sir.
All right. Okay, can we hear from someone else? I have Augusta, please.
Okay. Good evening, Prof.
Good evening.
Okay, for my own assessment, my figures are quite low. Charisma, I had 8, social 8, vision 9, transactional 7, delegation 6, execution 9.
Okay, so
So my lowest,
your lowest is what?
transactional is 7.
Okay, so what's going on?
Okay, like for the transactional, I've not really had the opportunity to recognize people's goals and reward them. So as a leader and learning to be a good leader, I'll try and recognize people that are supposed to be rewarded for their great work in my organization. Then also it's not really easy to manage others by setting standards in which we agree with because of differences. And from the lecture, I've understand culture. So I'll try and understand people's cultural differences and see how I'll be able to manage everybody by setting standards for them. Then for the last question under transactional, I'll try to ensure that poor performance is corrected. Maybe if I award those people that are performing well, it will also encourage people that are not performing well to perform very well. Thank you, Prof.
All right. Thank you. And this is very important. You know, earlier on I said we were looking at the two sides of the divide as transformational or transactional, but we see from an adaptive perspective that you need to have strong transactional skills as well as strong transformational skills. What that means is the same way we talked about leadership and management. You know, so there are instances where you need a transactional skill to get an emergency done. So if you don't have a strong transactional skill, because you say, well, I'm only a transformational leader, you cannot lead in that situation. And if you're a situational leader or an adaptive leader, you understand, you need to have all these skills in place. And this is very key. Sometimes people say, well, my focus is just to make sure that people are happy. To what extent will you make people happy at the detriment of the task, you know, to be done? You understand? The team will fail if people don't keep to the task, you know, and this is important to note from this discourse. Yes, let me hear from the class rep himself.
Okay, good evening, Prof, and everyone in the call. So I'm looking at mine. I'm just a little bit worried. I seem to be having 12 in everything, but my eyes is on delegation. especially on number 11, civil number 11.
Okay.
I seem to be the kind of person that when I see that people are, good in what they do and they are heading towards the right direction, I seem not to give direction. I just allow them to, cruise to the end point. So I don't know if that is something that is good to do or if it's something I should also work on.
Okay, what if you see that people may not have what it takes to achieve what is required? Will you do the same?
Not at all. So at that time, I would want to give guidance. But when I see that they are not open to receiving it, I seem to, disconnect myself from them. That is just me being honest.
Yeah, because to be honest, that's how it plays out. Because if you look at the Lewin's style, from the autocratic, authoritarian, to the democratic and the laissez-faire, you can apply any depending on the situation you find yourself. So if you are dealing with people who are reasonably skilled, proficient in what they are doing and so on, you possibly may want to use the laissez-faire style. You delegate and you feel that you give the benefit of the doubt that they would do what is right. You understand? But in the event that you have early warning signs that they are not doing what is right, what are you likely to do at that point? Jump into the ring, correct them to keep doing what they are doing? Yes, classroom.
Okay, so I would just I don't think I have the answer now, honestly. I like being honest, so I would just want to be mute on that for now.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so let's get to I'm looking for this. Let's get to Desmond. Is that a legacy hand? Let's get to Esther. Desmond, your hand is still up. I'm not sure why. Esther.
Okay. Yes.
We're waiting for you.
Okay, I'm not sure. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you, and I believe others.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So going through the exercise, I see myself having issue with charisma and delegation. I think I got my summation was 10 and 11 out of 12. And the major concern for me is the number 1 for charisma, which is I go out of my way to make others feel good to be around me. I think it's something I struggle with. My score was 3 there, and I think that's where I have a struggle with that. Then also for delegation, I had problem with question 11 that says I really give direction or guidance to others if I sense they can achieve their goal. Most times I want to be, even when I know that this person or the person, my subordinate or someone under me is good, I want to be getting feedback at every point so I can checkmate or ensure the person is sticking to plan and the person is, we are on track together. I know exactly what the person is doing and the person is keeping to the initial goal. So I see that as a concern. I really don't know. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so let me ask a further question. What do you think you can do with these areas you just mentioned? What can you do, to close the gap in any of them?
Okay, for the second one, I think one thing I can really do is to just maybe sometimes give people benefit of doubt, like just allow them and see over time to see what the results, let the results speak, the data speak for itself. Then if I'm not really getting what I want, I can then.
You tell us what the second one is quickly? Let me understand. Let me connect with what you're saying.
I'm talking about question 11.
No, you're not looking at the question per se. You're looking at the leadership factor.
Yes,
Now,
I'm looking
question
at
11
delegation.
is part of delegation. Yes.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So for delegating,
you have a challenge on 11, which is you rarely give direction or guidance to others if you sense they can achieve their goal. Correct?
Yes, sir. So my response there was.
Let me ask you, as a leader, when you delegate, do you watch people do what you ask them to do? Do you supervise them or watch them or watch their back?
Yes.
So when they falter.
So I think maybe I over supervise. I don't know.
When you over supervise means that you really get worked up and do part of the work you have asked people to do. Is that what you mean?
Yes, if I feel they are not giving me what I want, they are not meeting deadlines or things are not working so smoothly as I assume, I can just decide to let me do it by myself because I really want to get the desired result.
Well, I don't think there's a problem with that if people are not getting it right, because the overall interest is to ensure that the team tasks are done and done to the level that is required. So if people will learn from what you have done so that in subsequent delegation, they're able to do better, you made a success out of the team. You understand? So you don't watch people fail and the team fail. And you say, after all, he's complaining that I don't give him work. Now I've given him work. Let me watch him so that he will fail and I will use that as a lesson. No. There are better ways to have lessons. You learn from others, but not from your team. Failure. You understand? So this is very important. Let's move over to emotional intelligence. In this one, you have four factors, and each of these factors are 5 items. So the least score is 5, and the highest score is 25. So who is sharing this with us? Emotional intelligence. Esther, are you still there for us?
Yes, hello, sir.
Yeah. Yes, Esther, are you talking or is a legacy hand? If not, Elizabeth Enang, we're all ears.
Okay, Prof, I'd like to share mine. So for self-awareness, I see that I scored 20. For self-management, 20. Social awareness, 18. Then relationship management, 19.
So talk about social awareness. What went wrong and what will you do?
Okay. Social awareness, that's 11 to 15. So, okay. I'm trying to look at the question. So I'll see. So I see that I responded 3, like I'm neutral in 3 of those questions. So okay. Personally, I can be very blunt. So sometimes I lose, I may not actually read the room. I just say something as it is. So I'm going to change that. I'll change that. So I'll try to read the room, read the situation, and then before speaking or speaking to a situation. Then I'm not so outgoing.
So it says I'm outgoing in social situations. That's not me. And I've tried to fix that, but I don't really know how to go about it. Probably because I've not given it thought. So if I give it thought, I may find strategies to deal with that.
Okay.
Then 16 says I address people in difficult situations directly. Okay, I chose to be neutral there because it um people people think I have the right words, but sometimes it's hard for me, especially when it's in the area of um say grief. I find it hard to address people, but if it's in the area of maybe conflict, it's it's quite easy for me. So I'll try to work on that. Sometimes I don't just find the words because probably because I think that people that have gone through the same situation in the area of grief I'm talking about now, people that have gone through the same situation are in a better position to talk about it. So I may not fully understand their emotional state at the time, so I just try not to say anything.
Great, as Elizabeth. It's great. Now, understanding yourself is very important because that's the first port of call in trying to make improvement. If you look at the social awareness from 11 to 15, you can actually grade it as you actually graded yourself. You can actually know why it's like that, and change is possible. And sometimes this change can come through coaching. There are people that subject themselves to coaching in areas of their deficiency, and they're able to, get a lot of improvement. I can imagine someone that has difficulty in speaking, public speaking. You understand? You may want to do it by initiating him gradually into public speaking, or you implode him. Just set him up on the stage and leave him, you understand, on that stage. You find out that she figures things out, and possibly gain that confidence, that's required. Learning is all that we need. However, the learning comes, to improve on areas we can improve on, to make us better and stronger leaders. So in all, we look through all this just to be able to show us that we can. In your workbook, you'll be doing other assessments. I remember you have the style, leadership style assessment. You have the trait assessment. You have the motivation. There's an assessment of motivation. I think there's a skill assessment, leadership skill. You understand? I want you to do the same thing there, score yourself, and know the kind of person you are. First step in trying to reinvent yourself and enhance your leadership capability. What is good will give you good results. And I want to encourage you to improve your leadership is to take this as a lifelong learning. A 3-day learning is not enough. Take leadership as one of your lifelong learning. And I want to see or hear about your testimonies in doing this. Is there any question from anyone at this point? Somebody asked for this PowerPoint slide of the note I gave to you, and I sent it. But that's not to scare anyone, because sometimes people complain and say, oh, the note said too much or whatever. You may not use it. The lecture note is enough. Let me get through all the. Yeah, some people gave their scores on this day, but we lose the ability to discuss this course. But I think you had it from others, and you can do same, with your peers. You can actually share ideas about this, and you figure out what you need to do to improve your leadership skills. Is there any last comment from anyone? Any question before we close this section? All right. On this note, I want to thank every one of you for your audience, your participation, And I also want to encourage you once again that you make leadership a lifelong learning. Leaders are not born, but made. And you've been intentional about developing yourself in leadership is worth every while. And I want to see this is just an appetizer, for you to go and improve yourself, develop yourself as a future leader. We don't know what positions you will, but one of the truisms we know is that if you get into a position before you start learning leadership, you are rather too late. So the best time to learn leadership is when you've not got into the position. When you get into the position, there's so many things that will derail you. So learn leadership, take it as a lifelong learning. And if you can, build leaders in your organization. On that note, I want to wish you well, and I pray you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Wish you well, Prof. Happy weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Prof. God
Bye-bye.
bless you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Prof.
so much,
Thank you,
Prof.
sir. We really
Hope we
appreciate it.
enjoyed the class and we are
Appreciate your
better
class.
leaders.
Thank
Have
you,
a
Like,
Prof,
great
for
thank
weekend,
the
you,
guys.
Prof.
lecture.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prof.
Prof. Thank you, Prof. Good
Thank you,
night.
Prof.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Oh, we want you to contest for president.
Yes,
You want to
Ogaji.
continue the way it was taught yesterday.